All right, let's move on and on to our next fireside chat, which is on the topic Future of Transportation. Where will it go? We'll be discussing digital mobility and the latest trends in signaling and automation, developing alternative energy sources, and innovations contributing to sustainability and efficiency. Our speaker this evening is Jean-François Beaudoin, President, Digital and Integrated Systems, Alstom. In this role, Jeff is driving the signaling, infrastructure, and turnkey business of the Alstom organization worldwide, including future-driven core technologies like autonomous driving, multimodal mobility, orchestrating tools using artificial intelligence, as well as cyber security. Moderating the session is Savyasachi Srinivas, Executive Director, GETC India, Collins Aerospace. Savyasachi has global experience working in aerospace and defense corporations in the United States and in India, leading cross-functional global teams. His experience includes managing and leading the development of large-scale software systems for mission-critical applications in aerospace, aviation, and other engineering domains. Pleasure to have you both here with us. Over to you, Savya.
All right. Thank you, Justin, for those lovely introductions. Jeff, it's such a pleasure to talk to you. I'm so excited about this conversation that we are going to have. Both of us represent, the transportation industry. You focusing on rail, and obviously Collins Aerospace focusing more on the aerospace side of things. I have some great questions to ask you. Industry is in both the aerospace industry as well as the rail industry, and I would say the transportation industry as a whole is in a state of digital transformation. So the first question I want to ask you is, in this fast changing technology era, please share your perspectives on the latest trends in digital mobility.
Thanks, Savya, and thank you everyone for attending that session. I'm also very excited to have an opportunity to share some thoughts on how digitalization is transforming mobility. Of course, I'll focus my observations on rail because that's what I know, And I just wanted to start by reminding everyone listening to that conversation that rail today is the greenest transportation choice in terms of CO2 emissions per passengers and per kilometer. And it also addresses one of the key challenges that urbanization is coming along with, which is traffic congestion. Because too few people realize that the passenger capacity per square meter of utilization of land is the highest when you use rail transportation. And so that's why our number one belief at Alstom is that rail is and will remain the backbone of mobility. When you say that, and if you want to address fully the sustainable mobility challenges that the world and the society is facing, we consider that one of our goals is to make sure that we accelerate the modal shift, which is basically we attract more people choosing train over cars, to put it very simplistically, because in such a way, the mix on the CO2 emission per passengers and per kilometers will be enhanced. And to secure that for the same mobility potential of the communities, transportation reduces its CO2 emissions. What's the role of digitalization in that aspect, and what are recent trends? The basic observation is that digitalization is a key enabler for getting more throughput on existing railway infrastructure. How do you do that? First, I'll describe very simplistically what rail digitalization means. It's a combination, and I don't want to be too technical, but I think it's interesting. It's a combination of intelligence on board the vehicles, the trains, the locomotives, the metros, with intelligence at the infrastructure. You've got vital computers and sophisticated digital solutions that equip the railway infrastructure. On top of that, you have supervision systems, which can be more or less sophisticated, that basically govern the way the traffic is organized. I'll put it this way. To secure, number one, safety. That's the primary reason for this digitalization to exist on railway systems, is to make sure that people can travel without having a risk of facing accidents. And by the way, rail transportation is the safest transportation mode as well. But like I usually say, there's nothing safer than a train which doesn't move. So under the constraint of safety, you want to increase the throughput as much as possible so that people can actually travel. And that's how digitalization is architectured. and what it brings. Through further digitalization and new solutions, you can, with the same level of safety, increase further the throughput. There is also an expectation, and hence accelerate the model shift, of course. There is also an expectation to make rail transportation more attractive. It is green, it is efficient, but it has to be more attractive. So one of the roadblocks, of course, is to make sure that mobility is perceived by commuters as a seamless journey, typically with solutions of mobility as a service, for instance, or online booking, online ticketing, or mobility orchestration, which is how you make sure that regardless of how many transportation modes a commuter is going to use during his journey, the connectivity between the transition from a bike to train and then to, shuttles is done as smooth, as predictable as possible. And of course, one key element is to make sure that the transportation systems are resilient, i.e., when one is coming down, when there is an incident on a given transportation mode, the others can adjust in real time as much as possible their response to this incident to offload the transportation system that has failed. So all of those are expectations and I would say market trends for which digitalization or digital solutions as a whole can further enhance the value proposal to commuters and the communities.
That's a great input, Jeff. Really interesting to hear your perspective and hear the parallels actually that are existing even in the aviation industry. I mean, a couple of threads that I want to talk about is you spoke about, intelligence on board, and that's definitely an area that we are trying to bring to bear in the aviation industry on planes as well. Clearly, you appreciate the fact that aviation is a highly safety critical sort of an industry, and we have the same focus as you guys do. But in terms of intelligence, we are focusing more on autonomy in terms of how do we reduce the load on the crew as well as on the pilots, and looking to move to maybe single pilot operations and maybe sometime in the future even pilotless operation. You also talked about the passenger experience, and I think that's exactly what we are doing in the aviation industry. Especially Collins Aerospace is leading our emphasis on starting the experience right from the airports, bringing about that seamless experience of going through check-in, security, all the way through boarding, the whole experience with better connectivity on the flight, and that coupled with autonomy on the plane is all the things that is happening from a digital perspective. So it's great to hear your perspective. In terms of safety, I think you and I will have an argument some point of time, which is more safe mode of transportation. But let us leave that aside for a second. Let me just quickly to hear your perspective on how is the digital transformation impacting the overall transportation industry and the rail industry in general. I know you touched upon a few more some threads, but I would like for you to share some more thoughts on this whole thing about how is it transforming the whole industry as a whole.
You mentioned it's very interesting, Savia, because you mentioned that single pilot and maybe pilotless operations on aircraft someday. Actually, that there is an increasing trend and expectation of having driverless operations in rail as well. The difference maybe between rail and so many other transportation systems is that we've been operating driverless metros for a few decades now. And of course, it's much simpler, so to speak, than driverless cars or driverless planes, because there is only, if you look at it mathematically, only 1 degree of freedom. But still, it is a challenge. And today, the industry having the most experience of carrying passengers without any driver is actually rail. All new metro systems, most of them, that open every day in the world are driverless today. It brings benefit because when you rely on the computer no disrespect to train drivers, of course, but when they rely on computers to operate, these are very sophisticated systems, of course, which rely on vital computers, reliable connectivity, and so on. You have much more ability to have predictability in the way the timetables are executed because you have a repeatability of the patterns of the mission profiles. And you can as well rely on sophisticated algorithms to better balance the trade-off between trip time and energy consumptions, for instance. I'm giving that examples, but there are so many others. The challenge we're facing today is to actually extend the scope of driverless operations on trains to mainline operations. The difference between a metro system and an intercity, for instance, is that in the metro system, you have a closed system. There is no physical risk of physical interference between the vehicles and the external world, so to speak. And by the way, it's very simple to see when a driverless metro is operated. You've got platform screen doors on the platforms to prevent any interference of whatever, somebody, an object, from the platform onto the track until the train is stopped. And that means that you can have what we call an automatic metro, which is a metro that operates without drivers with the eyes closed. It doesn't see its environment. It senses its environment, but it doesn't see its environment. When you want to open your horizons to open network, large mainline network, that the ones you see in India, for instance, there is, of course, so many risks of interference with something that would come from outside of the railway system. So you need to be able to safely open the eyes of the train. And we're working on programs to put in place prototypes here in Europe of driverless operations with computer vision, but safety-critical computer vision systems to allow the train to see its environment and to be able to react when something actually interferes. So that's one aspect. Another aspect I'll mention is the implementation or the usage at a larger scale of machine learning, data science, and artificial intelligence. And we're embedding those technologies into our offering. And I'll give you a very simple example or a broad view on that. The observation is that our technology have subcomponents that create data and exchange data for their own purpose. And we realize that we can create even more value to our customers without adding sensors by extracting those data and consuming them to create insight and ultimately new value and new services. One example, for instance, would be everything that helps you having a condition monitoring real time of your equipment. Very classic, predictive maintenance. But there is so much you can do to go even beyond that. There are as many use cases as pain points from your customers. And the last point I want to make, Savia, is I usually say that cybersecurity is the flip side of digitalization. And you can't accelerate digitalizations of our solutions without coming along with a cybersecurity proposal. And that's, I think, really a conviction that we have at Alstom, that we need to make sure that our new technologies are designed cyber inside, but as well that we can provide solutions for intrusion detection solutions, for instance, peripheral solutions to help our customers' install base having an answer to the cybersecurity threat for solutions that have been deployed 10, 20 years ago when cybersecurity was not as much a concern as what it is today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jeff. It's such a fascinating topic. I think we can go on and on about this. Again, I was thinking about the parallels in the aviation or the airline industry, and how we are bringing AI ML, to the cockpit, and with so many sensors and availability of so much data now, and in conjunction with technologies like voice recognition and gesture recognition, we are trying to, as Collins Aerospace, trying to bring in more autonomy onto the aircraft, and this is. And clearly, cybersecurity is going to be a challenge that we need to address as well. But just switching gears here really quickly, I want to talk to you something that is very close to and near and dear to my heart, and that's about sustainability. So I want to hear your thoughts on what are some of the areas of innovation in the rail segment that is contributing to sustainability and efficiency, and can you share some news on what are some of your focus areas in terms of alternate energy resources?
Yeah, right. My simple answer would be everything that we do at Alstom contributes to a sustainable mobility. Everything. For what I've explained. The more people will take train, the lesser mobility as a whole will have a carbon footprint that impacts the environment and the climate challenges that we have to face. So, but if I want to give something which is a little bit more practical or a bit more iconic, I would say, you know that for low density lines, electrifying lines has an economic equation which is not always flying, and low density lines being lines for short distances, small trains carrying few passengers, let's say few trains an hour or sometimes few trains a day. And here the electrification would be the perfect answer to the carbon footprint challenge as an alternative to current diesel operations, where we consume diesel, is economically not always viable. We came up a few years back with a solution to replace diesel operations for low-density lines, which is hydrogen. And we are the first transportation industry having in revenue service, and that has started 4 years ago in 2018 in Germany, fuel cell-based transportation solutions. And these are trains which are very lookalike the ones that we operate on a regular basis, except that instead of emitting CO2 and diesel particles, you can find only water. So that's one major innovation for transportation. I think that has inspired as well other domains to show that hydrogen can be an alternate source to diesel for full-scale operations. And we hope that's going to, I would say, be a stepping stone for other industries to follow. And I'll be curious to hear about you on this, on aircraft. And I want to give you an appointment, all of you, on 15th of September, so coming up soon. You can check on our website and link our accounts. We're going to run for beating the record of the longest possible distance run with the hydrogen fuel cell vehicle.
Wow, that's phenomenal. Looking forward to that. No, I just want to share, from, clearly, the rail industry is a leader when it comes to, conservation and we realize this is an imperative as well as the airline industry. And, but, we are definitely embarked on electrification as an imperative for us. We are looking at hydrogen as well. But, a complete electric commercial airliner is not anytime soon going to happen. I think there's got to be still a lot of technology advancement, especially in terms of battery technology, that will need to happen before that happens. But on smaller aircrafts, I think it's already getting demonstrated. So we are making good strides in this area. My final question, Jeff, to you, and this is more in terms of what you see are some of the barriers towards, digitalization you're talking about, this transformation that the industry is going through. What do you see are some of the major barriers in terms of digitalization? You spoke about cyber, but there are a couple of other points that you want to sort of highlight for our audience.
Yeah, no, I really believe that in the rail industry, but I think across the world, cybersecurity is a barrier to digitalization. I think we'll be able to overcome that, but sometimes the trade-off between accelerating digitalization to reduce hardware and the cost of implementing cybersecurity on the digital system and maintaining effective defense over the life cycle of the asset might not always be totally obvious. I think that's an obvious hurdle. Another one, which I feel is quite, I'd say, rail specific, and I'm curious to hear from you whether it's same in the aircraft industry. We have a fairly conservative industry. Since we have, let's say, the physics of the rail wheel contact is something which is very difficult to model, very difficult to actually understand, deep in the physics, and things which worked over the last decades, sometimes 100 years, and you don't know exactly why and how. You have reluctance in this industry to change. So as a culture, there is an expectation from many of our customers to have something which is service proven, and it's in the contract we're signing. Commit that what you are delivering is service proven, and that's a barrier to innovation. Sometimes we can overcome that barrier, but it comes with heaviness and slowness sometimes.
No, thanks for that perspective, Jeff. In addition to cyber, I was just thinking about, in terms of a passenger on an aircraft, I think we have to overcome some behavioral sort of thought process right now. I don't know how many people would be open to being on a pilotless aircraft. I think it's something that we will have to overcome. That's a confidence that people will need to build. They can be safe at 40,000 feet in the sky and not have a human intervention out there. So yes, there are definitely some challenges. Jeff, this has been such a fascinating discussion, and I wish
we could
continue on for some more time. Unfortunately, I think in the interest of time, we need to bring this discussion to a close. Thank you so much. I look forward to maybe
thank you very much, Savya,
having this discussion with you in person. But thank you so much for your time, and thank you, Nasscom, for having Jeff and I indulge in this discussion. And over to you, Justin. Thank you again to the Nasscom team.
Thank you, Jean and Savya, for that engaging fireside chat on the topic, Adopting the Fuel of the Future and the Asia Opportunity.